Here we have a Rivian R1S quad motor, a 2023 Generation 1 to be specific. Now, since I have bought this, Rivian has released a tri-motor version, and they are soon to be releasing a new quad motor version on the Gen 2 platform. So what we want to find out today is the Generation 1 version still a good purchase? Does it have good bang for your buck? And is it better to buy than the Generation 2? The first thing to take into consideration is the price. With a tri-motor starting at $105,900 and the new quad motor to be rumored at $116,000, when you take into consideration things like fees, taxes, optional extras that you're inevitably going to have to add to the car, a nearly $50,000, and that may even be a conservative number, a nearly $50,000 difference between a Generation 1 quad motor and a Generation 2. And even if you do have a money tree growing in your backyard, it's a no-brainer. The Generation 1 is just simply a better buy. The Generation 2 gives you a little bit better suspension. It's like not as squeaky. Supposedly it tracks a little better. In other words, it drives just slightly better. The HVAC system has been marginally improved, but the doors are cheaper. The door handles are now electrically actuated instead of a mechanical thing, which personally I can't stand. And even though the Generation 2 is going to be like 0.04 seconds faster in a 0 to 60, is that really worth $50,000 more? Sorry, but for $50,000, you could buy a lightly used Tahoe. You could buy 2 Jeeps. You could buy a Honda Civic. You could buy an Audi, you could buy a BMW to be the companion to your Generation 1 R1S quad motor. For all you outdoor people, that's a lot of camping equipment. That's a couple of dirt bikes. That's a bunch of other things that you can spend that $50,000 on other than a marginally better R1S2 Gen 2. No, it absolutely makes no fiscal sense to buy the Generation 2. If you really boil it down, about the only thing a Generation 2 is going to offer you is continued support from Rivian. Basically, the Generation 1 has already sort of hit its limitations in terms of their updates. The Generation 2 is going to be getting the autonomous driving updates and a couple of other fancy things on the computer, and it's kind of a shame that they have forgotten the Generation 1 already this quick. But is autonomous driving really worth that price difference? And especially since Rivian hasn't made their mark in the industry like Tesla, Ford, or GM, no, I think $50,000 just kind of sounds like a waste of money. Next up, let's talk about its competition. If you want to compare it to the likes of the 4Runner, which admittedly has a cheaper base price, make no qualms about it, I'm going to be picking the Rivian R1S each and every single time. Now, a lot of you might be saying that it's an unfair comparison because the 4Runner is so cheap, but fact is that if you go to Toyota's website and you try to build out a more premium level trimmed 4Runner, you'll actually find that the Rivian isn't all that more expensive. And considering the fact that you get an all-electric battery, you get better speed, you get a better maintenance package, you also get a much better warranty from Rivian than you do from Toyota. And not to mention the fact that if you start climbing into the Lexus GX platform, you're now already exceeding the price of a Generation 1 R1S quad motor. Well, then to me, it's a no-brainer. I think the R1S is just simply better bang for your buck. Yeah, but Chris, the Toyota 4Runner is going to last forever. But so is the Rivian too. Probably. You know, electric vehicles, they don't really have any maintenance, and they don't really have a lot going on in order to break. About the only thing that can deteriorate really is the battery. And so far, that hasn't really been a problem on most EV platforms. And when you consider the fact that Rivian gives a transferable 50,000 mile warranty on their quad motor R1Ss, I mean, like, that is pretty outstanding. And considering the fact that Rivian's battery estimates are about the closest you can possibly get in the industry, I mean, this thing was a 330 mile battery, I think we have, and it gets that basically every single time. I don't know. Basically, the whole reliability argument from Toyota just doesn't really seem to fit anymore. But the reality is that the way that consumers purchase cars in this country, most of you that are buying either the Toyota 4Runner, the Lexus GX, or the Rivian are going to be getting rid of it after a few years anyway. So what difference does it make? So there you have it. If you are in the market for a new SUV and you are entertaining a Rivian, and maybe more specifically a Rivian R1S quad motor, then the Generation 1 is going to be better value than the Generation 2. And in terms of how it stacks up to its competition, I think that the Generation 1 is probably a better value than you can get from almost any other manufacturer out there today. In terms of an electric SUV, it's about the only three-row one that is worth a damn. And to be clear what I mean by worth a damn, the Rivian R1S is the only three-row electric SUV that doesn't compromise between like luxury and range. So for example, if you go with the super luxury SUVs like Volvo and Mercedes, you get really bad range. If you go with the ones that have decent range, then you get really crap quality like Kia and Hyundai. So the Rivian is sort of this best of both worlds where it's comfortable and it has excellent range. But overall, the Rivian looks great, is fun to drive, and offers a pretty decent amount of practicality. It is in fact a decent family vehicle with some pretty big caveats though, but we're gonna get to that in a later video. So anyway, yes, the answer to the question, should you buy a Rivian R1S quad motor Generation 1? Yeah, if you're looking for an electric SUV, or maybe even specifically you're just looking for a nice practical off-road SUV, then it's honestly one of the best options out there. And then in terms of if you should get it over a Generation 2, yes, you should. Anyway, we hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to us in the comments section. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another Rivian video really soon.